you said it.
Hi, hello, welcome to another episode of Now We Said It. I'm your host, Quisha. How are y'all doing today or night or whenever you're listening to this podcast? How y'all doing? Y'all, I am in a better space. If you don't follow me on social media or anything like that, I had some technical difficulties last week with the podcast. I filmed the premiere episode of Atlanta and the season finale of Potomac in one podcast. It was over an hour long and it took me about 6 hours to edit, and my file was corrupted. So after crying for about an hour, I decided to take a small pause. So those recaps will not go up along with the last episode of Salt Lake City. Y'all, I just had to regroup and come back fresh. Now, I still have the audio files from the Atlanta premiere and the Potomac finale, so I'm going to try my best to try to edit just the audio files and see how that works instead of editing the audio and the video. So I'm going to try my best. If I can recover those files and get it to work, I will definitely do that, because for selfish reasons, I am really proud of that podcast. So I want y'all to hear it. But in the meantime, in between time, today I'm just going to talk about the Potomac Part 1 reunion, and I will be talking about Atlanta tomorrow. Y'all know I like to beat my face and talk about it, and my face ain't beat right now, y'all. I'm up here in a bonnet with freshly washed wet hair, so we ain't cute right now, sis. We're not reunion ready. I'm not dressed for the reunion. Now, I only have one piece of tea to talk about right now, and that is regarding the Housewives of Beverly Hills. I can't remember if I brought this up on a previous podcast or not, but Erica and Tom Girardi are, oh yes, I did. Erica and Tom are, of course, as y'all know or may not know, they are being sued for embezzlement, child. And the news that I read today is that I believe it's Tom's assets are being frozen. Y'all, it is getting very serious. I can't believe it. They gonna throw Tom old ass in jail? Y'all, something about Tom, he just has the sweetest demeanor, but listen, does not excuse him from being a crook, you know? I'm very much looking forward to the outcome of this situation. I was always curious as to how Erica afforded her lifestyle, but I was like, hey, he's a successful lawyer. That's like, he clearly has that kind of money to drop $40,000 a month on her glam and paying for her to go on world tour, because we know damn well nobody was buying those tickets. Maybe about 100 gays or so. Ain't nobody else buying those tickets, y'all. She did not. The spending habits are just very interesting to me, but I just assumed he had it like that. And apparently he did not. Y'all, people really do be out here trying to keep up with the Joneses. Everybody is so obsessed with looking rich instead of actually being rich. It's all about appearances out there in Beverly Hills and in Hollywood and, in other places. Y'all, let me know what you think about the Erica Jane and Tom Girardi situation. Do you think they're guilty? I was definitely very surprised by the announcement of the divorce. It did seem very fishy to me, but now we know why they did it. It was to protect the assets, sis, that did not belong to them. Moving on, let's get into this Potomac recap because, y'all, it was a doozy. Now, of course, I'm not going to address everything that was talked about because not everything that they talked about in part 1 deserves to be discussed or recapped or anything like that. Y'all know part 1 of the reunions are usually pretty boring, but I enjoyed this one, y'all, especially the end. Monique did not come to play, honey. We start off with all the ladies arriving. They're taking rapid tests, getting their temperature taken and all that. I do have to say that all of the women looked really beautiful without makeup, especially Karen. I was like, yes, give us skin, honey. Karen. Gizelle looked really beautiful without makeup. I have to say, y'all, even with makeup, Gizelle, I'm telling y'all, she has probably one of the most disgusting, ugly, monstrous personalities ever, but she has probably, again, one of the most beautiful faces I have ever laid my eyes on. It's just such a shame. T'Challa makes an appearance, of course. Now, as they're getting ready, Gizelle's petty side is roaring and ready. She's being shady towards Karen, which is a definite preview as to what's to come, y'all. She said something like Karen is obsessed with her or some mess like that. Ciao. No, ma'am. Then they show Candace. She's actually watching the last episode, which was really interesting to see. I always wondered how soon they got to see the finale, or if they even get to see it before they tape the reunion. But Candace was watching it again. I wonder if she was watching that thing to take notes, y'all. I feel like Candace was taking notes for a reason. They shoot over to Monique and she says she's ready to set the record straight, honey. She has a binder with colored tabs. All right, you know when the tabs is colored, it's serious. So the women all get seated. They're all wearing yellow. Everybody looks really nice except for Ashley. I did not like her dress. And why was her coochie out like that? Ma'am. It was just a really awkward slit in the cape. I cannot. The stage was designed in a Portugal theme. It was really pretty. The women are sitting very far apart. Now, this setup looks a lot better than the New York one. I don't know what they were trying to do with the New York setup for the reunion. It looked like they literally found a stage and dragged some carpets out of storage and threw them on the floor, child. There was no rhyme or reason or theme to the New York reunion. Y'all, go back and look at it. It was terrible. So we open up by showing all of the women's various looks throughout the series. Everyone has had such a wonderful come up. Y'all, when they got to Ashley, they showed the confessional I will never forget. It was, I believe it was last season when she had that purple with the pink, and she looked exactly like Sheila, child, her mom. That might have been one of the worst confessional looks I've seen in a minute. Wendy's, that one that Wendy had too with the 80s vibe, wasn't the best either. Like, it didn't even look like Wendy going back and looking at that, but it was not worse than Ashley's show. In my opinion, I feel like Karen has had the biggest glow up of all the women. Karen just looks more and more beautiful as the seasons go on, and Gizelle has to be mad about that, yeah. Now, speaking of, like I was saying, that confessional look that Ashley had, when they showed it on the screen, everybody was like, oh, the women made an audible noise. Like, baby, no. So then Andy asked Gizelle about her fashion sense or lack thereof. He mentioned a comment by Karen, and then the rest of the comments were like viewer comments and stuff. For some reason, Gizelle only heard the Karen part because she immediately said, Andy was like, so how do you feel about that? And Gizelle goes, I don't know, because that was all started by Karen. No, it wasn't, honey. We've been judging your fashion sense since season 1, episode 1, day 1, honey. Karen don't got nothing to do with that. She's just the only housewife to say something about it in her confessional and out loud and on Twitter and on Instagram. Don't knock Karen for speaking about what needs to be spoken on like you do, honey. Gizelle got a really good dose of her own medicine in this episode, and y'all, it warmed my heart. I never really disliked Gizelle as much as everybody else does, but this reunion really just made her look so evil and so, I don't know, it was just a side of her that was so unattractive and so like disappointing to see. But again, I'm not surprised that Gizelle is behaving this way. It's just when you look at it like this, looking at her face, I feel like she might be embarrassed for herself, honestly. This was not a good look, this reunion for Gizelle. I can't imagine what the other parts of the reunion have to do, especially when it comes to Gizelle, because this was not her reunion, Hanny. Now, Andy asked Karen how would she describe Gizelle's fashion sense, and Karen says, a mess, child. And of course, Gizelle got super defensive, and Wendy says that Gizelle suffers from pretty girl syndrome, and Gizelle only heard the pretty girl part because she was like, what? Yes, me? Thank you. Karen said the same thing. Kevin was like, you know, you're gorgeous, and Gizelle was like, thank you, I know. It's like, it's a mix of conceitedness mixed with terrible choices. Like Wendy said, pretty girl syndrome. That is exactly the perfect way to describe Gizelle. You can definitely tell she's never really had to try at anything in her life because she is so attractive. She really does look like a human Barbie doll, but that doesn't mean that you can be empty on the inside. You still have to have something to you that comes along with that pretty ass face. And y'all, I feel like that's the main reason why Gizelle is still single. There's nothing else going on about Gizelle besides her looks. She has no depth. She has nothing to give but her looks. And I hate to say that because I don't know Gizelle on a personal level, but I can just tell by the way she interacts, the way she talks to and about people, that there's nothing else going on there. Unfortunately, you can only get by with a pretty face for so long. And like Karen said, honey, you're 50. You need to bring it emotionally, mentally. Come on now, stimulate my mind, honey, not my eyes. Y'all, my sister just texted me randomly and said Mary from Salt Lake City looks like a ragamuffin. I cannot. So then Andy turns to Robin and says, well, what do you think about Gizelle's fashion sense? And Robin's like, now, why are you going to ask me that, Andy? Robin doesn't want to talk bad about her friend, but you got to be honest. Wendy even called it out. She was like, come on, Robin, tell the truth, shame the devil now. Don't get up over here lying. And Robin basically says that, Gizelle makes very bold fashion choices. They're not for me, but she rocks them in her own way. Y'all know exactly what that's saying. Basically, I love my friend, but the hoe can't dress. Monique says for her, Gizelle's fashion sense is the hand to the face emoji. I'm dead. And then Candace said, I would love to see you be dressed by a really good stylist for a day. I just really want to see what you can give. You can tell Gizelle is embarrassed by all this. She's just taking it all in. But notice she didn't come for the other women like she came for Karen when they piped up. They essentially said the exact same thing that Karen said. But for some reason, when it comes out of Karen's mouth, that's when Gizelle wants to pipe up. For whatever reason, Gizelle feels like she can talk to Karen however the hell she wants. But really, Karen's the one that's reading her the most. Like, you need to be trying to talk the way you talk to these other women like you talk to Karen, because Karen is not having it. She shut her down at every opportunity. Queen Karen Ladame, honey. So then Andy asks Monique who does she think has the best fashion sense, and Monique says Karen. Then he asks Candace the same question, and Candace goes, well, it's a tie between me and Karen. And Andy goes, Monique, that's funny because I thought that you would say yourself. And Monique goes, I'm not that vain. And then the camera shoots over to Candace. She says, yeah, not in public. They were completely ignoring each other this entire reunion, child. Then Andy asked Karen why she came so hard for Gizelle and Robin this season. And Karen basically said she was just throwing fun shade. And Gizelle and Robin piped up and said, no, that's not true. They were saying, I think it was Robin. Robin said, Karen wanted to put the responsibility of the fight on me and Gizelle. No, she did not. All she simply said was, look at the glee in their eyes at the fight, which was true. They looked happy as fuck. She was just speaking facts. That has nothing to do. She's not saying y'all were responsible for the fight. She was just saying, y'all peep how everybody was stressed except for Gizelle and Robin. They looked happy. And they did. So then they talked to Wendy about her first season as a housewife, and they asked Gizelle why did she click with Wendy right away unlike the other women. Now, if y'all recall, Gizelle was so rude to Ashley and Monique the first seasons they were on. I can't remember if she was mean to Candace though. I can't really remember how Gizelle and Candace got along the first time Candace came on, but she was absolutely shady towards Ashley and Monique. She basically said that, her and Wendy are part of the same sorority and she already heard about Wendy. So that was pretty much her excuse, and I'm not buying it. My opinion, what I think about this whole thing is I feel like the reason why Gizelle clicked with Wendy right away, and I'm not even going to say she clicked with her right away. I'm just going to say the reason why Gizelle wasn't rude and nasty towards Wendy was because Wendy was going to read her down, honey, and Wendy wasn't going to take it, unlike Ashley. And I can't believe this, but Monique was definitely a lot softer her first season as a housewife, so she was trying to get along with everybody. So was Ashley. Like, Ashley kind of let Gizelle be very rude to her. Monique, not so much. Monique pretty much stood up for herself, but you can definitely tell Gizelle wasn't really giving Monique or Ashley the time of day when they first came on. So for her to react like this towards Wendy just tells me that she's intimidated by Wendy. And that's all it is. And then Andy brings up, how did all the women feel the first time they saw and heard about Kamala Harris being our VP? And they all just said it was a very emotional moment. They're all just super proud, like all of us, or, a lot of us. So that was really nice to see them talk about that. And it just reminded me, like, y'all, it's just like a huge relief lifted off my shoulders. And I'm sure a lot of our shoulders when it comes to the presidency and the future of the United States. Now, of course, y'all know it's not going to be very easy these first 4 years, but it's definitely going to be a lot nicer, okay? And a lot smarter. I ain't going to get on that because y'all know I'm not a super political person, so I'm just, So then they asked Wendy, how does she feel about being the first Nigerian housewife, and how has the Nigerian community responded to her being on the show? And she pretty much said, it's all love. They treat her like royalty. It was super cute. I'm really happy for Wendy, but like I said, y'all, I need to see more from Wendy next season. Okay, you can definitely tell Wendy is very capable of reading a bitch down, and I need to see more of that. I don't want to see Professor Wendy next season, all right? I want to see Shady Wendy, reading Wendy. The library is open, Wendy. Come on. Then Andy asks her, why is she always bringing up her degrees? And she says it's because she's put on the defense and is constantly having to defend her degrees. I don't agree with that. I don't really see a lot of instances of people challenging Wendy about having 4 degrees, and no one's saying she doesn't have 4 degrees. I just feel like maybe she was super proud of her degrees, and I don't think she's going to bring it up anymore in the future. I'm pretty sure she saw loud and clear how she came across shoving the degrees in everybody's face, and I think she knows that that wasn't the best look. So we'll see how she talks or does not talk about her degrees next season. I'm going to give her a pass this season because it was her first year and she's probably nervous and really didn't know she doesn't know housewives etiquette. I don't think you really know that until you get into that role. So I'm going to let it slide. But Wendy, I don't want to hear it again next season. Then she mentioned the podcast. She said, now we've said it. She didn't mention my podcast, but she just said those words, y'all. I will definitely insert a clip right here.
Now we've said it.
Then Ashley chimed in and says that Wendy threw her degrees in her face where it was not needed. I do agree. Wendy really didn't have to come that hard for Ashley. Y'all know. I feel like Wendy was just mad that Ashley was allowed to bring her baby to the lake house and she didn't think to ask Monique if she could bring her baby too. I think that's what that was all about. So I feel like Wendy might owe Ashley an apology for that, but she's never going to get it, honey. Not from Wendy, sis. And then Andy asked Karen, why did she call Wendy a floozy freelancer? And Karen was like, I did not say the word floozy. Gizelle did. And then Gizelle pipes up and says the reason she used that word was because Karen was trying to get Wendy kicked off the show. Now that did not answer the question. And then Robin and Gizelle chimed in and confirmed that Karen basically said that Wendy is not Potomac and she should not be a housewife. Karen said that she was having challenges connecting with Wendy, and Wendy says that the reason that Karen wasn't so receptive to her is because she didn't go to Karen's for guidance or kiss her ass. That might be true. I think there is definitely some truth to that. Even though Karen said that's not the reason, I think it might be the reason. And then they talk about Candace and her song, child. And they ask her, how does she feel it compares to Ashley's Coffee and Love? I think that's the name of her song. Candace says it does not compare. And she goes, my song had actual vocals and I was not singing to auto-tune. True tea now. They somehow got on the subject about trash. And then Ashley said, you're so quick to call everybody trash. Have you looked in the mirror? And then Candace was like, oh, you mean how your husband called my husband trash? Ashley looked a little taken aback by that, which is like, why? You should definitely be prepared for that comment to be thrown at you. Candace said, you need to get tested because your husband is itching. Bitch, I am dead. And then Ashley was like, don't talk about my husband itching. Yo, what are they talking about? I wouldn't be surprised if Michael was itching. He looked like he looked like he might, you know what? Let me take a sip of my water. He don't look clean to me. And then Andy said, Candace, you're a disaster on Twitter. And Candace like, thank you. Yo, I'm dead. And then Candace said something to Ashley like about worry about your kids. She said, worry about your children and your husband. And Ashley goes, what, are you threatening me? Robin says, no, don't forget that you brought up me and my kids and what goes in my marriage. All she was saying is that you have children. And Ashley was like, she said bad things about my family. And then Robin was like, didn't she? Isn't the only thing she said is that the baby looks like Michael? And Ashley goes, is that not rude? Now Robin didn't say anything, but y'all, what she should have said was, so are you saying your husband is ugly? Do you think it's rude for Candace to say that your baby looks like your husband, bitch? Why is that rude? Robin was like, like she couldn't say, girl, come on, Robin. That was your moment. Like, Ashley, do you think your husband's ugly? Because we all sure do, Hanny. And then Andy asked them, do they feel like colorism is to blame for why people on social media call Candace and Wendy aggressive? And y'all, Wendy stared all the light skins down. Robin was like, why are you looking at me, Wendy? And Wendy goes, I'm looking at all of y'all because I want to hear y'all answer. And then they respond by saying that they've all been called aggressive. And Monique says it has nothing to do with colorism. It has to do with your actions and your behavior in a particular moment. I'm going to have to disagree with Monique here. There is definitely a history of people calling black and darker skinned women aggressive and dogs and stuff like that, and they're kind of glossing over that subject a little bit. I know the Housewives is really not the platform to talk about these things, but the fact of the matter is these things are being said to these women. Like Wendy said, she gets inbox being called an angry black bitch. I can only imagine some of the other things that are said to them, especially the darker skinned women on the show. They tend to be called a lot worse names than lighter skinned women, and that's just the fact of the matter. That's just true, and that's just how things go. And for people to sit up here like Ashley and even Monique to pretend that that is not going on is super problematic. I've noticed Ashley a couple of times not really acknowledge or understand the struggle of the darker skinned black woman, and I feel like she might need a little bit of education on that. I'm just saying. I've noticed a few things that she's done that have implied that. I'm gonna move on from that though, but y'all know what I'm saying. And then Robin says, I'm very careful not to call a darker skinned woman aggressive because of her skin tone. And then Andy says, so when a woman of color acts in an aggressive manner, what's the appropriate word or term to use? And Wendy said, there's a plethora of words you can use besides the word aggressive. And I agree. And then Monique interrupted and said, what about hood rat or ghetto? That's what they call me. And then Ken was like, no, you called yourself that. And she did. I don't think I've heard any of the women call Monique hood rat or ghetto. I really don't. I do remember Monique coming on to her first season saying, I'm from the hood. I'm a hood rat, this low down dirty trick and da-da-da-da, stuff like that. I don't think I've heard any of the other women call Monique hood rat or ghetto besides herself. Then Andy asked Candace if she can admit that she has a tendency to provoke people. Candace says, I can admit that I use my words well and it's sometimes to my detriment. And then she says that she can definitely go below the belt and there are times when she needs to pull back and she can own that. And then he tells her, hey, like your life would be a lot easier if you just ease up on them Twitter fingers, sis. He then asks Candace about kids, and she pretty much says the same thing, that they're still talking about it. They're making moves forward towards kids. So I'm just assuming they having sex raw. He's shooting up the club, child. And she also mentions that she and Chris have purchased a new home, and the only thing that her mother has donated is a rubber plant. All right, go ahead now. What about butter knives? So then they pause for a break and Monique and Ashley have a little bit of a side conversation. Monique says Candace did all that talking and still has not taken accountability. Ashley then asks her if they'll ever be able to bury the hatchet and Monique says honestly no, because too much has happened. I agree. I don't really see them moving forward, and if they do, I don't think it's going to last for very long. I just think at their core, they're not meant to be friends. Monique says if they want to talk about rumors, she can bring up all the rumors she has heard about everyone on the stage, and then she points to the binder with the tabs, y'all. Then we get on Gizelle and her home decor. Oh my God. She basically says that she likes what she likes and she can put whatever in her house and it works. And Karen goes, or not. And then Gizelle was like, well, that's your opinion. And then she tried to be shady towards Karen, saying, oh, y'all, congratulations to Karen. Her Geritol kicked in. Karen clapped back immediately and said, hold up, bitch, you're 50. So please stop trying to act like you're not old too. Y'all, 50 is not old, but Gizelle really is acting like Karen is like 50 years older than her. Like, Gizelle, please stop with that. Like Wendy said, ageism. Gizelle is a true hater for Karen, and I'm telling y'all, she is just so jealous that Karen is getting all this attention from the show. LaDame is taking off. She's got her wig line popping, and y'all know Every Hue Beauty ain't here no more. We're going to talk about that in a second, but it's honestly screaming jealousy to me coming from Gizelle. Speaking of Every Hue Beauty, they then bring it up. Andy asks her, a viewer chimed in and said, Gizelle, I tried to buy Every Hue Beauty, but I can't find it anywhere. She lied and said that her manufacturer shut down due to COVID. Now, I did a live podcast with my friend Cocoa Butter Curls months ago. I think it was before the quarantine was official, and Every Hue Beauty had been out of stock and unavailable for months prior to that. So she's lying. They shut down way before quarantine and COVID and all that. And then Karen basically said, listen, just admit that you're no longer in business. Just admit that you've been liquidated. And then she said, you were so quick to say that LaDame doesn't exist and I'm making fun of my wig line and stuff. Now it's time to put you on the carpet. And Gizelle was like, didn't I just say that? No, you said a roundabout way that your manufacturer stopped because of COVID. And that's not the truth. Then Andy asked Gizelle how often is she able to see Jamal. She talks around the question, basically saying it's tough with COVID and everything. He lives in Georgia and their numbers are crazy. I will take that answer right now. It's a really very convenient answer, because I feel like if there was no COVID, there was no pandemic, there was no quarantine, they'd still be not seeing each other. I'm just saying, y'all. And then he asked her, how is the relationship with Jamal and the girls? And again, she never really answers any of these questions very directly, but she says they've had conversations, Jamal and the girls, without me, and things are moving forward. And then he asked her about her dad. He asked her about her dad and how is he feeling about things now, and she said her dad is always going to feel that way towards Jamal, and as long as he supports her, that's all that matters. I don't think he supports you though. And then Karen just flat out says, so are you and Jamal together? Gizelle hesitantly says yes, and Karen says, that's not what I heard. I heard you have an arrangement for the show, and he was saving your job by pretending that you guys were together. Ciao. Then Karen says, apparently Jamal recently had another baby while the two of you were allegedly together. Gizelle says he has not had another baby and that her daddy was exaggerating. Then Monique pipes up and says, but while you guys were announcing that you were back together, his girlfriend reached out to me and says that Jamal told her it's not true, that it's just for reality TV. Then Monique busts out that binder, bitch. Now, the binder allegedly has screenshots between Jamal and his pastor girlfriend. Monique even confirmed that it was Jamal by providing his phone number. Y'all, she said the phone number on the show. They bleeped it out, but Andy looked at Gizelle and they all did. And he was like, so is that Jamal's phone number? She paused and goes, yeah, that's his phone number. Looking real dumb as fuck in the face. Monique also says that she even has pictures of the girl in Jamal's bed. And she said she wasn't going to bring this up because she doesn't like to play dirty. But since they want to bring all her family into this stuff, then she's going to do just that. Gizelle didn't have anything to say, y'all. I couldn't believe it. She was speechless. The only thing she said was, I have no response to what she's saying. She ain't have nothing to say, bud. I'm speechless. Like, what do you mean you don't have anything to say about it? You don't have to, like, you're not going to deny it. You're just going to say, I don't have nothing to say. Gizelle said, I don't recall, honey. When she does speak, she goes, I don't believe anything that comes out of Monique's mouth or her binder. Candace chimes in and is actually defending Gizelle. She's talking over Monique and Monique is not listening. She's steady reading out the text messages out loud. Y'all, it is so crazy. Basically, Jamal was telling the women that it's for reality TV. He says it's rumors and lies just for TV was stuff he was saying. Because the woman was saying she didn't feel comfortable moving forward with their relationship if he's truly with Gizelle. And he said it's just for TV, according to the text that Monique has. And this whole time, Candace is talking over Monique. Then Monique gave us the line of the episode, maybe even the whole reunion. I don't know yet. We got to watch the other parts, but I feel like this was the true line of the reunion. Monique says, you come out here every year, sitting up here like a damn frog with a new man behind you every year. She said, you're a fraud. I hope he's sitting behind you this year, Pastor Holy Horse, since you want to keep calling my husband Big Boy. No lie, Gizelle really does have a new man every damn season. And then Karen says, well, Gizelle, is Jamal here today? She paused and said, no. Karen said, of course not. Monique says, your pastor boyfriend is slinging his big D all around Atlanta as we speak, and you know it. You're a fraud. And Andy says, Gizelle, do you have any reaction? And Monique says, of course she doesn't, because she knows it's the truth. Y'all, and that's the end of the reunion part 1, and we get it to be continued, of course. Oh my goodness. So next week we see them talking about an old clip of Michael squeezing a producer's butt, and they actually show the clip. So we're gonna get more of that. I'm never surprised by any of this. I don't know how he's continuously on the show. Like I said last time, it's because they're entertaining, but he is truly attacking people. He's aggressive. He's assaulting people. People working on the show, they are not there to be felt up and assaulted by one of the cast members. They have families and lives of their own. They're just here to do a job. They're not here to get felt up by some gross, ugly Australian man. Child. And then we see Robin and Gizelle talking in their hotel room, talking trash about Monique and her binder. Don't be mad because the binder got the truth, honey. And then Monique again says, every year, Gizelle, she cannot keep a man. And then we see Monique bringing up the trainer conversation, and she says it was a plot against her and her family by Gizelle, which we talked about that earlier in the season when I was doing recaps. Monique did a live and spoke more about that. And then we see Candace and Monique talking about the fight, and then we see Candace getting very emotional. Oh my gosh, y'all, her makeup is running all down her face. I feel like her makeup is the wrong shade, but that's neither here nor there. I will talk about that next week. And we just see her getting up and run away crying, and that is the end of the recap that we get for next week's episode. I definitely feel like this is one of the better part 1 reunions I've seen in a while. There was actually some juice, some drama, some tea spilled, especially by Monique and her binder Henny. This is a very promising reunion because if this is part one, sometimes part two is a lull too, but I don't think that's going to be the case with Potomac. These women came to play and throw shade and be petty. They are on ready. I'm not going to say I liked or disliked Gizelle before this because I understand how important Gizelle is to the show. Looking at the way Gizelle looked at and spoke to Karen really put a bad taste in my mouth for her, and I just don't think I can look at her the same after this. I mean, I felt that way throughout the season, but looking at it all wrapped up at the reunion and just, I don't know, something about the way she was looking at Karen is very hateful, when at the same time throughout the season she kept talking about how she wanted to repair their friendship and how important Karen is to her. To see her go from saying that to the way that she was looking at and talking to Karen in this reunion is a complete 180, and it's kind of disgusting to see because it's completely out of jealousy. Absolutely. Karen did not do anything to Gizelle to deserve to be talked to the way Gizelle is talking to her. Please let me know what you thought of this episode. You can email me at nowwe'vesaidit@gmail.com. You can also leave messages and comments under this YouTube video, and you can write me on Instagram. With all that being said, I will see y'all tomorrow for the Atlanta episode 2 recap. This has been an episode of Now We've Said It. Bye.
But now we said it.